Shalom. Exciting Parsha this week, exciting Sedra this week. We start a whole new Sefer, whole new Torah, Bereshis. In the Torah, we find many people who made such large mistakes that the sinner's brazen disobedience of God shocks us. There were Aaron's sons offering a fire God never commanded, the Jews at Har Sinai worshiping a golden calf, and Moshe hitting the rock. Yet, the most well-known sin was Adam and Chava eating the forbidden fruit in the Gan Eden. In this Dvar Torah, I'd like to focus on Adam and Chava's actions following their sin. I'd like to teach a lesson about how people act when they're ashamed of their own actions. After they sinned, the Torah records that Adam and Chava heard the sound of God moving about in the garden at the breezy time of day, and the man and his wife hid from God among the trees of the garden. God called out to man and said to him, "Where are you, Ayeka?" He replied, "I heard the sound of you in the garden, God, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." It's pretty strange that Adam and Chava hid from God. Why do something so futile as hiding from God? Rav Sajda Gaon explained that they were hiding out of shame. The Sforno points to a verse about the Jewish people in war, when God is with the Jews in the battle camp. The pasuk says, "Since God moves about in your camp to protect you and to deliver your enemies to you, let your camp be sacred. Let him not find anything unseemly among you and turn away from you." In the same way, we can't be naked in the battle camp. Adam and Chava shouldn't have been naked in Gan Eden. God questioned Adam and Chava about why they were hiding. As the Sforno points out, they had never hidden before. The Sforno continued explaining that because Adam and Chava now knew good and bad, which they didn't know beforehand, that's what the fruit had given them, and because of their new knowledge, they felt they had to cover and hide. The Radak wrote that the voice they heard in the Garden of Eden was God's voice, and God had come to them because of their sin. They felt it and hid because of their embarrassment of being naked. Even though God had made them belts, the belts didn't cover their nakedness well. And even though they knew they couldn't hide from God, they were embarrassed as people are in front of their friends, and all the more so, they were embarrassed in front of God, who was greater than them. What was it that Adam and Chava were so embarrassed about that they tried to hide from God? Well, obviously their sin and disobeying God was plenty to be embarrassed about. There seems to be more happening than just shame over sinning. In fact, the Bechor Shor, an early Torah scholar, explained that Adam and Chava were scared that they were going to be asked why they were hiding. Amazing. The Bechor Shor lends an interesting insight into Adam and Chava's fear and into human behavior when ashamed of their actions. According to the Bechor Shor, not only were Adam and Chava ashamed of their sin, of the eating of the forbidden fruit, they were ashamed of having to face God and explain their actions. People make mistakes, and they sin. Erring is a fact of life, it's human. Shame from mistakes and sin is a natural reaction, but it's also natural to be embarrassed about having to face up to those actions by speaking to God and anyone hurt by your sin. When dealing with others who have sinned, it's important that we recognize the feelings of shame and embarrassment they are experiencing, and be sensitive to their feelings. It's not always the proper time to condemn somebody, but rather to show empathy, reach out a hand, and help them come back from their actions. Shabbat Shalom. What an important message.